In Connecticut, lawyer Billy Halleck looks out his window and notices a group of gypsies arriving in town. After complaining, he goes to the bathroom to check his weight, but finds he hasn't lost any, despite supposedly being on a diet. Billy then joins his wife Heidi for breakfast. When Shady asks about his weight, he lies, saying it's the same 300 pounds as last week. Billy goes to court to defend his client, Richie the Hammer Ginelli, a despicable mob boss who should be in jail. Billy proves there's insufficient evidence against Richie and wins the case quickly. Later, upon arriving at his office, he discovers that the gypsy caravan has set up shop in the public park across the street. Everyone seems to be enjoying music and games, but when a gypsy woman hands Billy a flyer and invites him to join, he's not enthusiastic. As he climbs the stairs to his office, Billy is extremely tired. His boss takes him to the window and points out a gypsy woman named Gina, suggesting Billy give her a coin to lift her skirt, but Billy rejects the idea. Later, as he leaves the office, he encounters Judge Rossington, who is outraged by the gypsies' presence and expects the police to evict them. Officer Hopley finally forces them to leave, informing the judge that the gypsies have rented land on a nearby farm. Before leaving, Gina approaches Billy, removes a coin from her cleavage, lifts her skirt, but suddenly points her finger at him, spits on the ground, and returns to her family. That evening, Billy and Heidi go to a restaurant to celebrate their court victory with friends. Heidi, however, asks him to leave when the waiter brings dessert. During the drive home, Heidi tries to distract Billy by playing games to distract him from thoughts of food while he drives. At that moment, at the local pharmacy, the gypsy boss Tadzu and his daughter are buying medicine. The daughter feels cold, goes out to get a coat from the car, and while crossing the street is accidentally hit by Billy's car. Billy, distracted by Heidi's antics, doesn't see her and kills her instantly. The next day during the inquest, Hopley testifies that Billy was sober and driving within the speed limit. Judge Rossington rules that Tadzu's daughter's death was accidental, and Billy is acquitted without punishment, although Hopley and Rossington are covering up the truth to protect him. Outside, Tadzu approaches Billy, touches his face with her thumb, and says the words "thinner" before walking away. Days later, Billy checks his weight and is shocked to see that he is 280 pounds, which makes no sense, given that he continues to eat a lot. Later, while playing golf with friends like Rossington and Dr. Mike, they notice his weight loss simply by his appearance. A man mocks Billy's weight, but now more confident, Billy retorts by grabbing the man's butt and insulting him back, something he wouldn't have done before. In the locker room, Rossington asks Dr. Mike to examine a strange spot on his skin. Mike attributes it to stress and recommends an ointment. Billy checks his weight again and discovers he's lost another 4.5 pounds since the morning. While the men shower, Rossington reveals to Billy that Tadzu also touched him in the same spot, which now seems strange. Over the next few days, Billy loses another 11 pounds, and Heidi begins to worry, fearing it's an early sign of cancer. She insists he see Dr. Mike. After tests, Mike assures him that Billy is perfectly healthy. Billy goes to a tailor who measures him for a new wardrobe, as his numbers have changed drastically. On the scale, Billy realizes he's down 200 pounds. When the tailor asks what the secret is, Billy replies that he wouldn't want to know. That night, Billy eats a huge amount of food, but Heidi, worried about her husband's health, becomes upset. Their daughter Linda also worries about her father, and when he mocks her concerns, she becomes upset and runs to her room. Billy continues to eat voraciously, and when Heidi reprimands him, he explains that he skipped lunch at the office and lost even more weight. Therefore, he believes he needs to eat to maintain a stable weight. He also blames Heidi for the accident, but she retorts that he never stopped her from playing pranks and announces that she will send their daughter, Linda, to her aunt's house so she doesn't see her father in such a state. Later, at a restaurant, Billy meets Dr. Mike, who explains that he consulted a specialist and ruled out Billy having a tapeworm. So, he suggests he go to a clinic for further testing. Just then, Billy notices Lita, Rossington's wife, eating alone and looking sad. Mike explains that Rossington is out of town, supposedly visiting his sister, but Billy knows Rossington doesn't have a sister. After dinner, Billy goes to Rossington's house. Lita initially lies, saying her husband is visiting relatives, but when Billy mentions his unusual weight loss, she believes he was touched by Tadzu. Lita explains that when Tadzu touched Rossington, he whispered the word lizard. Since then, Rossington's skin has been turning into scales and his hands into claws. Lita is convinced that both her husband and Billy are under a gypsy curse, but Billy insists that curses don't exist. When Lita begins to freak out, she blames Billy for the curses, since he killed the gypsy woman. Billy reminds her that Rossington is also responsible for covering up her crimes. Furious, Lita throws alcohol in Billy's face and he leaves. Billy calls Richie Janelli and asks if gypsy curses are real. Richie consults his Italian mother, who confirms that curses exist and can only be removed by the person who cast them. While Heidi takes Billy to the clinic, he tells her about the curse, but she dismisses the idea as absurd. During the argument, Heidi nearly collides with a truck on the highway, but manages to avoid it in time. For the next few days, Billy remains at the clinic, where doctors perform dozens of tests. However, all the results indicate that he is perfectly healthy, and the doctors can't explain the weight loss. Bored, Billy decides to visit Hopley, who has also been cursed and now has disgusting bumps on his skin. Hopley hands Billy his gun and asks him to take revenge, but Billy refuses, saying he needs Tadzu alive to lift the curse. Hopley, aggressive, insists that Tadzu will never help them. Frightened, Billy runs out of the house and hears a gunshot, realizing that Hopley has taken his own life. Returning home, Billy sees Mike leaving and begins to suspect that he and Heidi are having an affair. While getting food from the kitchen, Heidi tries to talk, but Billy can't stop imagining her with Mike. He explains that he won't return to the clinic because he believes he is cursed. When Heidi complains, Billy, frustrated, throws food at her and yells that he is being neglected. The next day, Billy hires a detective who locates the gypsy caravan and reports that they are heading to the Maine coast. Billy returns home to find Heidi and Mike discussing the possibility of taking legal action against him. Billy says he agrees to return to the clinic, but in reality, he drives to Maine to find the gypsies. Upon arriving at the camp, he finds it empty and decides to speak with the real estate agent who rented the land to them. The real estate agent reveals that Heidi and Mike have put up wanted posters for Billy, demanding payment for his silence, or he will call Billy's wife. After buying the agent's silence, Billy goes to a hotel and finds a sign advertising a gypsy fair. He immediately heads there and finds Tadzu and Gina selling ghoulish dolls representing Billy, Rossington, and Hopley. Gina throws a Billy doll at him and begins chasing him through the fair. Billy escapes and is rescued by Rossington, whose skin is completely covered in scales. Gina fires her slingshot, shattering the car windows, but the two men escape before she can harm them. However, Rossington drives too fast, and as they reach a bridge, a fire truck driven by Tadzu approaches. Rossington tries to brake, but it's impossible, and the truck hits them. On the other side, a school bus, also driven by Tadzu, collides with the car. At that moment, Billy wakes up in the hotel and realizes it was all a nightmare. Worried, Billy tries to call Rossington, but Leda answers and informs him that her husband has taken his own life. Billy finds the gypsy fair, but it is abandoned. He asks around and a man points out the road the caravan took. That night, Billy follows the path and finds the gypsy camp. Gina calls him a demon, ignoring his skeletal appearance. When Billy lifts his shirt, Tadzu swears he will never lift the curse. Desperate, Billy kneels and begs, but Tadzu pushes him away and threatens to make matters worse. Furious, Billy says he cursed the gypsies back, but they only laugh. When Billy refuses to leave, Gina throws a rock that pierces his hand. He runs back to the hotel, bandages his hand as best he can, but needs help. Billy calls Richie, who instructs him to go to his summer house and sends a discreet doctor. The doctor bandages Billy's hand and prescribes medication, but it fails to alleviate the pain. The next day, Richie visits Billy and notices that he weighs less than 60 kilos. Richie also informs him that Heidi has signed a document to commit Billy to a psychiatric hospital. Determined to help, Richie breaks into the gypsy camp at night, poisons the dogs, and leaves a note demanding the curse be lifted. He then stops at a gas station and pays a young woman to warn him if the gypsies change their location. The next day, the young woman calls Richie to inform him about the new camp, but is ambushed by Gina and her husband. Meanwhile, Richie receives 2 boxes of weapons to carry out the plan. Billy sees a car outside with a message from the gypsies. Looking out to sea, he finds the young woman's body with a chicken head in its mouth and the word "never" written on her forehead, a response to Richie's note. Furious, Richie grabs his weapons and prepares for revenge, ignoring Billy's pleas not to kill anyone. At night, Richie invades the camp, knocks Gina's husband down, and opens fire, killing several gypsies and destroying their vehicles. One of them explodes, starting a fire. Richie pushes Gina's husband forward, and in the darkness, the gypsies mistake him for an enemy and kill him by mistake. After fleeing, Richie leaves a note on the man's body, again demanding that the curse be lifted. The next day, the police arrive at the camp to investigate. Richie poses as an FBI agent, convinces Gina to follow him to a barn, and throws a liquid in her face, pretending it's acid to scare her. Gina tries to defend herself, but Richie strikes her in the head, knocking her down. Billy appears to stop Richie from killing her. Instead, Richie places a vial of real acid on Gina's forehead and leaves a message for Tadzu, demanding he meet them at the lighthouse in 2 hours. After the men leave, Gina carefully removes the acid and runs back to her people. 2 hours later, Tadzu arrives at the lighthouse, not wanting Richie to kill Gina. To remove the curse, it must be transferred to someone else. Tadzu stabs Billy's injured hand, drips the blood onto a pie, and explains that the curse is in the filling. Billy must give the pie to someone to transfer the curse and kill him. Before returning home, Billy calls Linda and asks her to spend the night at a friend's house. Days later, Billy returns home looking healthier and offers Heidi the pie as revenge for her infidelity. The next morning, Billy wakes up happy to find Heidi's rotting body beside him, kissing her to taste the sugar. However, when he goes downstairs, he discovers that Linda has returned home and also eaten the pie. After Linda leaves for school, Billy, overcome with guilt, considers eating the pie to die with her. At that moment, Mike shows up to check on the family. Wanting even more revenge, Billy invites him to eat the pie. That's the end. If you liked it, like it and comment anything to help an unemployed person. Bye-bye.